Test 1, 2. Commissioner Douthert, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're good to go.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
It is Wednesday, September 2nd, 6 p.m. This special meeting workshop for the budget is called to order. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Hendricks.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrews.
Here.
Commissioner Price. Here. Commissioner Hodges. Here. Commissioner Douther.
Here.
City Manager, do you have any emailed public comment?
Mr. Mayor, no, we do not.
Okay, topics for discussion tonight are the 2021 budget. Andrew, would you like to take over, please, sir?
Sure. So just to talk about the agenda for this evening, let me first just give you a timetable about where things are tonight and where they're going to end up for October 1, 2020, when we start the new budget year. So we have, in terms of requirements, we have 2 public hearings that are required. One is going to be on September 9th, and in that first public hearing, we're going to present to you 2 ordinances. One will be adopt a tentative millage rate that we've already had discussions on, and we'll get to that momentarily. And then the second is to adopt a tentative budget. After that, within 15 days, we need to advertise in the paper, and there are certain stipulations and requirements about how to do that and how it's supposed to be presented. And then after that within that 15-day period, we send out that advertisement, and then within 2 to 5 days after that, we need to have our second public hearing. And from there, it's going to be a very similar process. Instead of a tentative millage rate and a tentative operating budget, we'll present to you all the final millage rate and the final budget. And that should conclude the budgeting process, and then we have a budget going forward. So this is our, potentially, depending on how the evening goes, the last budget workshop, or that's my intention, is to make this the last budget workshop so that we can agree on all the detailed figures to finalize a tentative budget for you, and then to finalize that tentative budget and prepare for the first public hearing. So that's the plan. So if there's any changes to any numbers that you want to make, I can make those very quickly, put in for the packet for the tentative budget for that first public hearing on September 9th. What my plan was for you this evening, instead of going through line by line, which we have in the past, I wanted to really focus on the changes from the last budget workshop, from the discussions that we had, and the previous tentative budget detail that you've been provided. And that's really what I want to focus this evening on, is here are the changes that we made, and if you're comfortable with these changes, we'll move forward. So they'll be in the tentative budget that you'll be receiving. If you want to make further changes, we have the ability to do so this evening, so we can try to get things finalized for that public hearing date. So that's the plan. Any questions, concerns, or comments on that? Hearing none, then let's just move forward with the documentation that I've provided you, 18 pages in total, and I kind of want to just take this chronologically going through page 1 and finishing through page 18. So page 1, 2, and 3 are just the overall summary of, with these changes we've enacted, here's what the makeup of the funds look like in terms of estimated revenues, sources, estimated expenditures, and uses for each of the funds. So this is something you've seen before. This is the overall budget summary for each fund providing all that detail by revenue source, expenditure source, and the sources and uses. Then on page 2, I want to show you all the breakdown of the operating revenues for the general fund. This is largely mirrors what the previous general fund revenues were, so no major changes to that except for 2. One is a change to the interfund allocation. We've got a future page that will go through what the changes we made to those interfund allocations. In our last budget workshop, Commissioner Price, I believe you had some questions on that and wanted some clarifications on some things. So I reran some numbers to give a little better transparency on how those figures are calculated, and it resulted in some small changes. So that reduced revenue to the general fund, and then offset to that, we did have one increase in general fund revenues that will go through on a future page. That relates to some revisions to state revenues that came from the Office of Economic and Demographic Research, or the EDR. And so that resulted in a $28,500 increase in the half-cent sales tax revenue that we'll be getting. So I made an update to that based on that information that was just recently released. On the expenditure side, so just to summarize on the revenues, we had total revenues in this budget now of $10,355,000. On the last budget, tentative budget information that you received, it was $10,365,900. So very close from one to the next. On the operating expenditure side, most of these changes are in personnel, and we do have some on operating that we'll walk through in more detail, but that's going to be what we'll really kind of focus on is a lot of these changes in expenditures from previous version to now. And so I have detail of all that, and that's going to be encompassed in the remaining pages of this presentation. So we're looking at $8,145,550 of operating expenditures in the general fund. Compared to previous, it was $8,165,150. So $20,000 less compared to the previous budget. There's things that caused increases, things that caused decreases, and we'll walk through those. But generally, overall, pretty consistent from a previous budget workshop where you've been provided this information to now. So let's get into some of the detail of what those changes are. So page 4, that's the capital outlay detail by fund and department. So 3 changes here to discuss. They're all highlighted in yellow. So one is a military court of honor. That was did not get spent in FY20, so we're bringing that forward to FY21 to the tune of $34,000. Bob, do you want to make any mention of military court of honor?
Yes, I think most of you are familiar with our plans of building the military court of honor and raising some other funds as soon as some of our development gets back into in moving. So we do have some money that's allocated, and we do have a campaign that we're ready to work on. It's just a matter of getting us out of the COVID-19 stage we're in now. So I think once we get into phase 3, we can start moving ahead with that program.
And then the next one we've discussed previously, that's a high and dry feasibility study for $58,000. We put that in as a discussion item, both in the previous budget workshop and then in a regular workshop. We did discuss it as well. So this cements it, and we're going to put it all into the marina budget for capital expenditure for the marina for $58,000. And then finally, on the Crystal Island completion, that was due to timing. Public Works Director Jamie can elaborate further, but that's now set to complete in March of next year. So in previous budget, that was looked at as an FY20 completion project, but pushing out to March, those are the expenditures we anticipate incurring and finishing out the Crystal Island project. So that's now added to the Stormwater Fund. Any questions on capital or anything else you want to discuss relating to capital as you see here on this page?
Jamie, I got one question for you. This is Commissioner Douthat. is this based on 2.75 or the 875?
So this is based on the millage rate that was initially decided upon of 2.875 mils.
Thank you.
The next page is the interfund reimbursements and overhead allocation. So to revisit this, in years past, we had used a administrative charge from general fund to other funds that didn't have a lot of support behind it, and I think it was just rolled forward year over year with some maybe small percentage increases. And so we wanted to put a little, like I said, better transparency in how those numbers are derived. So I developed an allocation model and refined it a bit further since our last budget workshop. So what this does is it allocates both personnel expenditures for various general fund departments that are more administrative in nature, that do either directly or indirectly impact, work on, affect other special revenue and enterprise funds. And then we also have certain operating expenditures, namely in non-departmental, that all funds absorb, benefit from, and so added an allocation method to each of those, either through time study or number of FTEs or percentage use of the city center was my allocation method, depending on the nature of the expenditure. And then we have the total general fund operating expenditures for that particular expenditure type. And then that breaks out, and then your percentages is what we're going to allocate to each of the funds. And down below, if my allocation method was number of employees, I showed that calculation as how that was derived based on the proposed number of FTE employees in each department and in each fund. So it's a bit more detailed calculation. It did generate in some changes. That's the changes I highlighted yellow from one to the next. So I can walk through those with you. That was the sanitation fund previously was $29,600. Now it's $40,700. The stormwater fund previously was $84,000. Now it's $56,600. Marina fund previously was $216,600, and now it's $184,100. Archibald Park previously was $115,300. Now it's $102,300. Building fund previously was $118,500, and now it's $140,900. So changes weren't significant. To the building fund, we did add a piece for law enforcement that wasn't there previously. That is for weekend code inspections performed by the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office to look for potential building code violations. And so that's the work that they do. So we allocated some of that time to the administrative charge. It was shown. It was also a transfer out of the building fund in FY20 to the tune of more like $92,000. So this is actually less than FY20, and it's bundled all in the administrative charge to the building fund. Any questions on any aspect of this, the interfund allocation that you'd like to discuss? At least this gives us a basis, current and going forward, on how the general fund will charge other firms to, if nothing more, demonstrate this is a fair practice, and it's not a money grab by the general fund to try to recoup from other funds to cover its own shortfall. So this provides justification.
I really like this. Thank you. I like this format a lot.
Great, thank you.
While we're on here, Gulf Beach's library, you've got 147,100 on here. That is for, what exactly is that? for, Mr. Laughlin? Will you explain that to me?
So there's the non-departmental, I looked at our non-departmental department in the general fund and looked at certain expenditures that kind of had more of a citywide benefit, including all the funds. And so that was Christmas decorations, fireworks, and Gulf Beach's library. So I felt like those costs, rather than just the general fund absorbing the entire amount of all of those costs, it's spread amongst all funds of the city. So the $147,100 is the sum of the cost of Christmas decorations, fireworks, and Gulf Beach's library.
Okay. And just for your knowledge, Gulf Beach's library did have a vote. They reduced the amount they're requesting from the city of Madeira Beach. That will bring it down to $84,060 rather than the $93,400.
Great, and I think I have that. We'll go through that on page 16 of 18. I've got 84,100, so I've got that. I've got the right amount, it sounds like.
Okay, your page numbers are not the same as my page numbers.
Yeah, sorry about that. The second to last page of my multi-page analysis, the one that has the non-departmental detail in it.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, if no other questions on the interfund reimbursements and overhead allocation, the next page represents the personnel summary for all departments, all funds. I know we've had some questions on certain positions, so I thought this was a good opportunity for you all to see what all the positions are for each department within the city. So this is more for informational purposes. There are a couple changes, and I can highlight those in the future pages where there were some allocation changes from before, but I'll just stop here and see if you have any questions on any particular department positions based on your review of these position counts. And if not, we can keep moving. And if no questions, we can keep moving on the personnel costs. And this just kind of expands a little more on some of the changes, and I wanted to show you that by department and by fund. So the second piece below we've already covered. That's the previous interfund allocation and then the current interfund allocation. So not to belabor that, but focusing on the top, the previous personnel costs, the current personnel costs. So some of these had larger reductions, and then some of these had increases. And so let's talk about both. So on the increase side, most of that was due to the 3% increase that we have for, 2%. The 2%, we've enacted a 2% increase citywide for all city employees. That was not on the last budget detail. I had it in a PowerPoint presentation, if you recall, looking at the potential impact of various increases. And so in discussion with the city manager, we enacted a 2% citywide increase for all employees, minus a couple one-off changes like to the city clerk and deputy city clerk's pay, but otherwise 2% across the board, with the exception of fire, EMS. I worked with our payroll manager to make sure I had the right step increases for those individuals, and made some refinements there based on my work with her on that. So,
Hey, Andrew,
yep.
They're on their last year of their 3-year agreement. Their raises are guaranteed as part of the earlier negotiations.
Yep.
Sorry.
So that 30,300 relates to ensuring we have all the right amounts based on contractually, based on that PBA agreement. And then the rest that are these small increases that you see are based on the 2% increase and how that affects each department. Then we have some of the larger reductions. And city manager's office and finance being large reductions, as well as human resources. So from our previous discussion, Commission appeared supportive of eliminating the finance director position as a personnel cost and moving that to operating for my services, and then also taking the HR payroll manager position that we had entirely in HR, moving that position to finance, and then outsourcing the HR position with a HR designated experienced individual. And so that, and then also in the city manager's office, we had an IT director that was moved, that was budgeted in the city manager's budget, that was now then moved to information technology, and that's the $135,100, which is that individual's proposed salary, plus the moving one half of the, what was formerly termed the public information officer, that's now a technical coordinator, that's going to be 50% in the city manager's office and then 50% in the IT department. And then there's been another update to that, so maybe I'll turn it over to the city manager to discuss kind of the nuances of the IT director position and the technical coordinator.
I'd talked to our city attorney today, and after review of the contractual agreement we have for our current IT services, we're kind of locked into that agreement since it doesn't really give us any out, per se. So I'd rather not go into a lot of detail right now because I'm trying to negotiate lower costs at least. And I have an appointment tomorrow with the principals to see what we can do in light of that information. But I think the wise thing to do right now is back out the IT position that we wanted to add in to the budget, and let's see what the results are of the negotiations that I have tomorrow, and I'll be back with you when we have our next meeting, so I guess that would be on the 9th, and I'll have a full report for you. I just want to have an opportunity. We're dealing in the public anyhow, but hopefully it doesn't harm our negotiation stance.
So we're taking the IT position off then?
Correct.
Okay.
We'll leave the IT information technology as its own department to capture those costs. That was a recommendation you all had. So capture those costs, remove the IT director position from personnel, and the remaining salary and benefits that will go into the IT department will be one half of the technical coordinator. That'll be split 50-50 between information technology and city manager's office.
So we're budgeting for 2 people in IT when we are not getting out of, we probably aren't going to be able to get out of that very expensive contract that we have. We need to, we need to take them out then.
We're removing
the whole purpose was,
we're removing the IT director. The public information officer, in reviewing the time he spent on IT-related matters, seemed justifiable to, if we're creating this new IT information technology department, that some of his time serving as the liaison and boots on the ground for IT-related matters pertaining to the city, that half of his time would get charged to that department.
well, I think we need to make a decision who's going to do our IT. Either we're going to pay $220,000 a year and have this company come do it for us, or we're going to have our own. Right. If we can't have our own, then I don't want to pay an IT employee, period, right? I mean, I don't care
Agreed.
what you call it, information technology or whatever you call it, it's an IT employee.
I feel like we're kind of playing a shell game here because
Yeah.
we were talking about eliminating a position, and now all of a sudden we're splitting that same position into two positions and adding another line item. And I agree with you guys. I mean, even getting rid of that contract as swiftly as we were going to try to do it, it wasn't responsible for us to do. I mean, we got to work our way through that contract, and I don't see any reason why we couldn't go, especially with the contract on the line, go to them if we need somebody to run a meeting or something like that. These guys can be more hands-on than we've ever made them be before. So I think that makes more sense. But, I mean, we kind of just went from where we were talking about a particular position that we didn't need because no city manager had an information officer before, and all of these duties that we saw in this list were all belong to these department heads anyway. Now we're moving people around in order to keep them here without eliminating the position. It's not what we talked about, guys.
It's not, and it's not saving us the money that we thought we were going to save.
I think our biggest problem here with the IT people we have, the company that we have, is we got nobody here. And things go down and we still got nobody here. So we got people sitting on their hands waiting for them to get here from Clearwater or wherever they're located.
Most of this
I think
stuff
we're in
can
a
get done
bad-
through a help desk number. I mean, if you have problems with your computer, you call up the help desk and they walk you through it. That's how 99% of the problems are fixed that way. You don't really need somebody right here on site. Now, obviously, right now with the COVID-19 and all these meetings that we're having to have, we got to have somebody with some knowledge on how to, put this stuff on TV. But, I mean, I don't think if we need an IT person hanging around here just to help people get through their problems, then let's hire a young person out of school and give them a chance to work up into a bigger position for us when the contract does expire or we get out of it or whatever we need to do. But I don't think we need to fund $135,000 for information technology and keep the $220,000 contract.
No, I get that.
That was the whole purpose of making an IT department or information technology department.
Yeah, to get to that 135,000, the IT manager or
Right.
whatever we were going to, IT technician, whatever we were going to term him, was 94,195 salary and benefits. So that's coming off, and then the proposal was just half of the time of the individual in the city manager's office, which would be 40,000.
Okay, so if we turn to page 9 of 21, I guess for you it's page 7, we have an information technology department, and it's got 1.5 people in it. If we can't get out of the network contract, we do not need 1.5 people in there, we need a half.
And that's what we're proposing.
Oh, okay, so we're going to take the IT director out?
Correct.
Okay. So we're going to hire a young person just dedicated to IT for what, part-time?
Or use an existing resource within the city to split time.
I think we discussed that the city manager had enough help. He doesn't need an assistant. He doesn't need 2 assistants. right? Did we discuss that? I mean, I kind of inferred it, but maybe we didn't make ourselves clear. Frankly, the list of stuff that I see Kurt doing isn't, I don't think we need a human being doing all that. I think most of that goes either to the city manager or to the department heads.
Agreed.
I mean, when people get Breakfast with Bob the day before Breakfast with Bob, I mean, that's when I got the email, it was just the day before. That doesn't give people a chance to adjust their schedules and show up somewhere at 8 o'clock the next morning. So I don't know. What do y'all think? I know what Doug thinks. Mr. Douther, do you have an opinion?
I think that we need to keep the IT person, because I'm on this end with the Zoom and all that kind of stuff. And every time we have a meeting, you know, we go through a lot of problems just for me to be able to Zoom in to the meetings. You know, until there's a way to correct that there's absolutely no problems, I think we need to keep it. You know, you guys, and to have it on the television and all the different things that we're required to do, I think, you know, you need to have an IT person there, is just my opinion.
Yes. We are proposing to have a part-time IT person here. But do we need a full-time information technology person, which is basically the existing position that we decided that we didn't need? Is this something we need to take a vote on or something, Attorney?
You're just going to give direction to Andrew tonight, and he'll make the changes, and then once the budget goes through its final adoption process, that will take care of itself.
Well, until we know what the negotiations, the result of those from tomorrow, I mean, I think we need to at least take off the IT director position completely,
Yep, I'll definitely do that.
okay? And I think we need to put just an IT, just a part-time IT, you know, on-site person.
Which we have at part-time at 50%, and that's
Right.
splitting time with the city manager's office.
I don't think we want to split time with the city
Right,
manager.
I mean, we're paying $60,000 for a part-time IT person. The city manager doesn't need any more help. No other city manager has needed 2 assistants. So I don't think that we go that route. I think that what we do is we go out and we go find somebody that wants to, that can work part-time to be able to run the meetings. I agree with Commissioner Douthat. I completely agree with you. We need somebody technologically advanced to do this. But there's a lot of people out of work right now that are technologically advanced. I think we could find somebody. Even if we paid them the same amount, we're paying half the salary. And we could even contract it out. We wouldn't have to pay benefits. Okay? Or we go to network people and tell them if they want to continue to keep their contract, they're going to have to work with us on this and find us somebody that can run this equipment for our meetings. So that's my personal opinion. I thought we discussed this last meeting. I thought we kind of came to a solution, and now all of a sudden this position goes from, okay, well, we're not going to have that position, but we're going to split it up into two different positions. Yeah, I mean, we got to cut this budget down. We've got some work to do. So I don't know. To me, that's the most sensible place to start. This is a position that didn't exist in April of 2018. It doesn't need to exist now, especially during a crunch time as far as numbers.
Agreed.
So at this time, you're going to eliminate him altogether? Is that what your plan is, or what is the plan?
Well, we make the plan.
Right, but you're gonna, he was going,
you all direct me. I think there's unanimous support, which we're proposing to you, is eliminate the IT, what's called the IT technician, and that was a total salary of salary and benefits of 94, because the total amount you see is 135,000, right? That consisted of 1.5 FTEs. So one full FTE was $94,000 and change for the IT technician. That will go away because we're not able to extricate ourselves from the network people contract. That can be looked at in the future depending on how things go, but for now we're eliminating that from the FY21 budget. All are in support of that. That was our proposal to you. It sounds like you unanimously agree. The second piece is, which I feel that there's support for, maintaining that 0.5 FTE for part-time to assist and serve as a liaison between our outsourced provider, network people, and the city. And what we have budgeted is about $40,000. And that person's time was split with the city manager's office, and that's the basis for discussion here. If you wanted to remove that 0.5 position at the city manager's office, if you go in your personnel and go to city manager's office, you'll see the technical coordinator there for 0.5, for 50%, or 0.51 FTE. So
What
it
does that number represent, Andrew? That 0.5 in the city manager's office, dollar-wise?
Salary and benefits at 40,000.
To 40,000. So we're 100. So even if we eliminated the IT department for 100, eliminated the whole thing. Let's just bear with me for a second. We eliminated the whole thing for 135,000. We eliminated that half a position out of the city manager's office for 40,000. That only puts us at 175,000, and our contract with network people is $200,000. Right? We still have to borrow money in order to get there. So, or we still have to pull money out of another fund in order to get there. We're not even breaking even by eliminating all the positions. So.
Well, I think that money is better spent how you suggested, and maybe Bob can go back and talk with them. If they can give us more support here, if they can put somebody in our location, I'd rather pay them additional $20,000 or whatever and get all the support we need without having to have another person running around here, an employee.
If I may, we also had some dialogue with them prior to the budget process and looking at ways that we could cut the costs. And those are some of the items, if we're not going...
I'm so sorry.
If we're not going the RFP route, those are some of the items that, we can, again, negotiate with them. So it's the whole thing's really open as to what we need to do. It's just that they're a little bit more in the driver's seat than we had originally hoped for.
Well, I guess in the meantime, let's budget for a part-time IT person. And it could be that money goes towards an individual that we hire to come in and help us out, or it could go towards the network people. I mean, just placehold the money.
I would think we would need a motion and a vote on this to make that change. Or do you just need a consensus?
I think the consensus would be fine. Just give them direction. You got 5 people here.
Okay. Do we have consensus to eliminate that position?
The technical coordinator position.
Yes.
Yes, and the IT director position. And instead, just get an IT tech or additional help for the on-site IT.
Part-time IT then?
Yeah.
Yeah, stick 30 grand in that line item. Take out the 135 grand. stick 30 grand in that line item, and then eliminate the .5 in the city manager's office. And then you know, we got a month to come up with a solution. It's September 2nd. We got to be ready by October 1st. We can negotiate with network people, or we can start looking around. And I got to be honest, I think we could fill the position in 30 days.
Commissioner Hodges?
I'm really confused on this. That's exactly what we're doing, other than the fact we are looking for, an IT tech is what we're looking for. I know we all got that, position. It was all written out as to what we were looking for. I'm writing this down here, okay. We were all looking around at different things that, are done by this person. And we eliminated that there was a lot of things on the list that could be done by a tech of the department himself, instead of having someone else do it. Even if we did it that way, just taking a lot of the items off the list and giving it to the director of that department, would that still allow his position, but not at the quoted price that we have here? Would that make a difference?
I think what we're talking about going down to is a part-time IT person. And a lot of these things that are being done right now, that the weight of those items needs to be carried by department directors. That's the way I understand it.
Right.
Right,
So
it's nothing new.
eliminate
This is nothing new. Department heads have done all of those job assignments up until 2018, April of 2018, before this position was invented. You know, any press releases either came out of, I mean, I was here, press releases came out of the rec center, they came out of the fire department sometimes, they came out of the city manager's office, they came out of the different departments. Somebody proofread them before they went out, and they went out. It's not, I mean, you know, all of these other functions are functions of either the event director, they're functions of, you know, the trash pirates are Deb's function. Deb gets them the bags and does all the liaison work for that. So I just don't see a reason to have somebody for $60,000 to do that laundry list of things when we never had that position before in the past. Just my personal opinion, that's all. I mean, we did fine without it. We were much leaner. We had less people here at the time. So I think the department heads can handle the additional work, if there is even any, if they're not doing it already, actually.
So do we have a consensus?
Yes.
Commissioner Douther?
No, I disagree.
Commissioner Hodges?
I want to agree, but I just don't feel comfortable without all that other information that we have as to what we are exactly doing. Yes.
We have a consensus. So we'll be getting a part-time IT person.
So that I'm clear, we're going to have 0.5 of an FTE in IT, in the Information Technology Department, and then we'll reduce by 0.5 FTE in the city manager's office.
Yes.
Okay. So that was on previous personnel costs to current personnel costs. We've already discussed city manager's office, the finance and HR, those big reductions were due to outsourced positions, plus the movement of the HR payroll manager then moved into finance, and that position is now the payroll financial coordinator, and then we had an administrative assistant in finance moving to city manager's office for front desk coordinator. So some shifting of positions, and that results in that 98,500 cost reduction in finance, as well as 84,500 cost reduction in personnel and human resources.
And that's without sourcing HR.
Correct.
Andrew, we're going to discuss that again on page 16, it looks like, right?
Yeah, we have the HR budget detail.
Yeah. Okay. When we get to there, I get a couple of questions when we get to there, but,
Sounds good.
okay, because there's more numbers on the page and it's a little easier to try to figure it out. Okay, thanks.
The next page is the Marina Fund analysis by revenue type. I prepared this in response to Commissioner Andrews' questions on some of the detail within the Marina budget, and so tried to separate things by revenue source, revenue type, to make it a little easier to understand. So this is more informational in nature, but happy to address, to the extent that I can, any questions on any of this analysis presented.
Okay, and first off, I apologize for not being able to make our meeting last week.
No worries.
It's been kind of a crazy time, but okay, I do have a handful of questions here. You have the original budget that you gave us on, what was it, the 19th? Yeah, on Wednesday the 19th, you gave us this.
Yep, I've got that.
Okay, cool. Okay, I just want to go through a couple of things because I'm a little confused with the numbers here.
What page are you on, Doug?
Oh, I'm sorry. On
the old,
on the old one, from the 19th, I'm on page 34 of 70. And on the new one, page 12 of 21, we're kind of going to go back and forth a little bit. All right, Andrew, on that first one, if I look down to the year-to-date actual for the Marine on that page 34, I guess, total of 405, 347, culture, recreation. You look across to the third line item, year-to-date actual, and this was on, what, April 19th, right? 2020, and I know it's not an up-to-date thing, but the Marina does submit receipts every day, so they should be, relatively in a few days or so, right? Okay, so looking at that, your year-to-date actual as of August 19th, so 2 weeks ago, was $1.745 million. Today, if I calculate all the way down, in the column, the column next to last, through 2020, your numbers, which would be the 1.564 million, your total cost of goods sold, your total store sales of 206, and then your all of the revenues of 412 equal up already to 2.183. That's 2 weeks after we got a number of 1.745. So is this, I guess my first question is, on the new analysis that you gave us through August of 2020, is that the projection through the end of the budget year, or those new actual numbers, and we just did a $400,000 in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think the timing gap is a little bit wider. I believe in that FY20 actual and projected, I initially ran those numbers in late July. So we're probably looking at about close to maybe 4 weeks, maybe more towards 4 weeks.
Okay, that's a big 4 weeks, though. I mean, that's $400,000 difference from a 1.74. Okay, look, I know you're new here, and I just want to walk through these so everybody understands what we're about to agree to for the Marina budget. Back to that page 34 from the old one. Scan across, you're looking at the project through 9/30/20 was 2.123. Well, according to this, we're already over that, but still it was 2.123. Even with the new number, it's 2.183, okay? so nobody gets confused. Let's go back to the new one again. On page 12 of the new thing we just got, you're budgeted 2021. So if we take all these numbers down, which I'll make it easy on everybody, if you go down 4, the first number is your total fuel sales, which is the first component, that's 2.21 million.
Right.
Your next component, scroll all the way down to the store and gross profits analysis. Your total store sales is 2.54, okay? And then scroll down to the next other revenue and expense analysis is 410.
Right.
So if you take 2.210 million and 254,000 and 410,000, you come up with a number of 2.874000, right? And that's consistent with what you had last time. My question, and I hope it's the same question as the rest of the board has, how are we intending to have our marina jump from $2.18 million to $2.874 million without creating a new revenue source? I mean, we're not selling boats now, right? We're not doing anything different. I just don't understand where this number is coming from. And if you look on page 12 at the 2021 budgeted, look at the budgeted numbers. I mean, they're all excessively higher than where in the case of unleaded fuel, you're looking 1.75 million. We've never done that before, and especially where gas prices are now. And then you're looking at our diesel sales, highest ever, okay? And then you're looking at our diesel commercial. I mean, we're about to do $168,000 this year, and we're expecting to double that. So my question is, I'm fine with it, but can we justify a $700,000 jump, which is basically 33% of overall revenue from one year to the next without adding anything? And we have no new revenue sources, right? I mean, the high and dry is not going to be built. What is, and I wish our director was here, what is the reason for this increase?
Well, I'm just a new guy, but
Understood.
I think, and I didn't, the director prepared the budgeted figures for fuel sales, so he'd be able to speak better to this, but I believe the estimate was based on, and there's a lot of variables that go in really on the sales price, and so, I think his estimated number of gallons and estimated sales price, average sales price. I mean, overall, the gross profit percentage is relatively consistent. It's just, I think at the time he put the budget together, in terms of pure dollars, he was anticipating a higher sales price than what we're seeing in 2020, which is the lowest it's been in 4 years. So perhaps when he was...
Correct. Now, and I'm glad you brought up gross profit, because that's where I was going next. So let's go to that. It's page 12 again, guys, right in that main analysis on the new analysis. The gross profit percentage in 2017 was 20.57, then 18.66, and 24. Jumps all the way to 34.46. I mean, that's really good, okay? Now, it also shows that we only paid $1 million in fuel this year, which I don't really understand. I mean, that's a lot of profit. And if that's really true and that's really accurate, and that's what we're going to give to our auditors, I say stop the bus, man. Let's do 2.1 million every year and make $539,000. No reason to go to 2.8 million, right? But if we've set the new bar here at gross profit is 34.46%, why does it drop next year to 27.60? Why do we need, if we only spent, and this is going back to the other budget, according to the marina number there, projected through the end of this year, we're only going to spend $1.681 million at the marina, which is great. So why don't we spend $1.68 million next year? We're asking for almost $2.6 million. We're asking for another $1 million. And we're also not talking about the big matzo ball, right in the middle of the page, a $950,000 or $970,000 encumbrance. are there purchase orders attached to that? That number is just too odd of a placeholder, $950,129.29. It seems like it's a bill. To me, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I did a lot of purchase orders here, and they're all written out. So are there purchase orders that are attached to that number? And I don't see that number going away. I mean, I don't see it being added anywhere, but I don't see it being added to next year because that would make our fuel cost for next year exorbitant if we're only spending $1 million this year. So I hope I'm not confusing everybody. I know this makes sense to me because I can go through this back and forth, but I'm just looking at, if I'm looking at gross profits and we've hit this new magical number here and we're on this magic carpet ride here at 34.46%, why are we going to let our profit drop? Or are our numbers a little jacked because we still have an encumbrance of almost $1 million sitting right here that we're not even addressing? So, and I apologize, we should have done this in public, private. I just wanted to kind of come to some kind of consensus on where we were because I want to believe all this, but none of the numbers are adding up for me. So I apologize.
No, I'm disappointed we don't have a marina director here to explain this.
I can say the gross profit percentage is based on the combination of factors of the markup, pure markup of the fuel that's purchased, combined with discounts provided to various entities. And I don't have the details of each, so yeah, we can have a separate presentation from the marina director at a later date on what helps arrive at that gross profit percentage.
Yeah, but this is where the presentations are supposed to be. I mean, this is why we have these meetings, right? This is our third budget meeting, and we haven't heard why this is happening. I mean, I'm hung up on a lot of things, but the big one I'm hung up on is we're trying to balance you're trying to balance a budget, okay? So what this number is telling me is they're telling you they're going to deliver you almost $2.9 million next year. This is the same group without any changes. I mean, we're not adding new fuel pumps. We're not adding, fancy ice machine or anything like this. But this is the same group that gave us less than $2.2 million this year. And all of a sudden they're going to deliver $2.9 million. And, I don't know why the gross profit's dropping because it's basically telling me somebody knows where the prices of gas is going. Because I sure as heck don't. And I can help you out with why the profit margins are different. Most of the time when we're doing markups on these, and nobody's here to confirm it or deny it, but they don't do it by percentage. They do it by, so when we marked up gas in the past, it was 80 cents. So I'm assuming they still do that now, regardless if we're buying it at $2 or $3, we're still marking it up 80 cents. So that's why the gross profit margin on gas can fluctuate. But I don't know. I mean, you're following me, right? I just can't add the numbers together. I can't come up with the fact that I'm willing to say, okay, I'm cool with that and then we come in at 2.2 next year and our budget's off $600,000. And we saw this going into it and we're not addressing it. So that's all.
It kind of glares out at me when I see 2019 total fuel sales, $1,878,000. Year to date through August of this budget season, it's only $1,564,000. So we only have 2 more months left, right?
One.
So just based on that, why do we think we're going to sell another $700,000 worth of fuel in 1 month? Right?
Happy that includes all of, so it's the overall revenue. So that's just one of the components of the overall revenue.
Yeah, I'm just looking at fuel sales.
Yeah. Fuel sales don't.
Because that to me is glaring. That is a huge.
It's a huge
jump. It seems very pie in the sky.
Right. Well, all right.
That we're going to make that.
Also though, I don't know what fuel prices were last year, but I would suspect part of that is that we've had a drop in fuel prices.
Right.
They're all down here too,
So,
John.
yeah.
They're right on that
Yeah.
bottom line here, 312, 357,
Yeah,
342, and 282. Yeah.
So,
That's right.
Don't know that they're not going to continue to drop.
Right, I mean, yeah, we had this conversation when we took out that loan, when Walter told us they were historical low interest rates. I said, you're gonna tell me where interest rates are going? We don't even have to get a loan, we can just play the market. And then the Fed subsequently lowered them 3 times after that. So we don't know where fuel prices are going. If we did, I mean, it would be a good time to buy some now, that's for sure, and load up. But I'm kind of thrown off by the numbers, why we spent so much less this year in fuel, and why we're estimating such a big increase next year, why we're expecting profit after a huge increase in profit margin this year, why we're expecting a drop next year, and what is this $950,000 and what are we going to do with it? Where is it at? What's it for? What's it pointed at? And when is it going to be spent? Is it going to roll over into next year? I just, I think in order to make a really sound decision on that, we got to know all those things, Andrew.
Well, it says it's for purchases fuel. So have we promised to buy $1 million worth of fuel, basically, showing up on our books?
No, the encumbrance represents an unspent purchase order. So that would, unless it's project-based and we need to continue with this vendor and carry forward that PO, that encumbrance, this, to my estimation, I was involved in the encumbrance process at the onset of fiscal year 20, but I'm making the assumption that at the beginning of the fiscal year, a large encumbrance was set on estimated fuel purchases throughout the fiscal year, and then that encumbrance is whittled down, and perhaps that number's high again because of declining fuel prices. From average sales price of 3.42 to 2.82. That's why you had a lot of that remaining unencumbered balance. But that's going to expire at the end of the fiscal year. There's no commitment. To my knowledge, the marina just pays for fuel on a spot contract for a set amount of gallons, a set amount of time, and there's no multi-year agreement where we're locking in fuel prices for an extended period of time. It's pretty much as needed.
As you go.
Right. So there's no long-term commitment there, and then just looking at only the revenue number in fuel from one year to the next can be misleading simply due to the fact that we have fluctuating fuel prices. And so, yes, you'll see a huge jump in revenue from what we're looking at actual 20 to budget in FY21, but then you also should look at the cost of fuel sales, and you see a big jump there as well. And the estimate that was made by the Marina Director during the budgeting process, I'm sure was based on what are the number of gallons I anticipate selling in FY21, and what do I think the average fuel price will be. And, it's just lower in 20 because the average sales price has been lower than previous years.
well, if we've got a set profit on a gallon of gas, it doesn't matter whether you're paying $2.50 a gallon for it or $3.50 a gallon for it. You've still got the same profit.
That's right.
So one number could inflate, but your profit's still the same.
That's right. And so that's where I'd focus a lot on that gross profit line and gross profit percentage.
So we can't really count on the 2021 budget for the marina. It's almost like we need to use the figures for 2020 for the 2021 budget. Simply because it's so inflated over 2020. I just don't understand how a lot of these numbers came up. I'm with Doug on that one.
Well, I'm not knowledgeable enough to tell you what the numbers should be. If this is what the Marina Director Manager says it should be, then maybe we go with it, and, I mean, we can have a budget amendment after the first quarter of the year if things aren't panning out, I guess. I mean, I don't know where.
I think Andrew and I will get together tomorrow, and, you know, I want to go back through all the numbers again, and, you know, you bring up some valid points, and I just want to make sure that we're addressing everything. I don't want to set us up for a budget amendment that's
Right.
going to be obvious down the road. So we'll definitely this will be one of those issues we'll be reporting back to you on when we have our first public hearing.
Okay.
So do we leave it the same till, the city manager gets back with us on this?
If that's okay, and I'll definitely, you know, I take Andrew's advice, and as we go through this and take a look at those numbers.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
The next is just the revenue detail with some just yellow highlights to explain what has changed, and we went through that. So the half-cent sales tax, I've bumped that up by $28,500, and then reduced. That was based on updated estimates from the Office of EDR from the state of Florida, and then the administrative services allocation that did get reduced, as explained previously, by $39,400. And then the next, we've got city manager's office. So that's going to change. That 376,700 number will reduce further because we will remove 0.5 FTE position from personnel. And then in the next page is the information technology. And so that'll get changed from 135,100 to 0.5. And I believe Commissioner Andrews mentioned $30,000. Did you want that in just salaries and wages and then calculate benefits on that? What were you all looking for personnel costs for a half of an individual?
Yeah, I kind of threw it out. Excuse me. I kind of threw it out there as more of a part-time consulting type of position. If we wanted to get, I mean, I don't know. Even if we hire somebody part-time, we don't have to pay them benefits, right?
No, well, if they're an employee, they're still entitled to benefits.
Oh, a part-time.
Certain, not health, not our part-time employees don't receive health insurance.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just if you want to throw a round number in there, I don't know how much something like this costs. I really don't. I would really like to kind of try to negotiate it with network people, so we kept everything in house until we were ready or able to make a move off of that. I'm actually pretty happy, if it makes any sense, that network people sticking around. We don't want to make huge network changes in 30 days. I think that has to be more of a gradual move. But I don't know, the placeholder of, why don't we throw it in at 40? That would be my suggestion. I think part-time employee at 40, I think we can do, especially if we can contract it out and it's just a consultant.
I'd agree with that.
Okay. And I can put it in personnel, and then if it's a contracted person, then it would go in operating, but it's still we'll still try to keep it within the confines of that amount.
I think maybe in a year or two, we may want to go ahead and bring someone on board to be able to work with network people, maybe a year before the contract's out, and phase into our own IT.
Yeah, as I had mentioned, I think, looking at this thing as more of a 3-year plan, and what we want to try to get accomplished and deal with them straight up on where we stand. Now, obviously, if their new package ends up being reduced considerably, then, those are things that we can take into consideration. But we do have to have an exit strategy 3 years from now. And, you know, right now, we don't have an exit strategy, so I agree with the Vice Mayor. You know, we just need to make sure that we do things the right way all the way down the line. So in my negotiations with them, that's what I hope to relay to them, and not to say that that's a decision that we're making now, but we do want to have that opportunity to look at that 3 years from now.
And then in information technology, I had reductions in computer support, but I'll bring that back up since to the previous budgeted level based on our discussions this evening. That was reduced because we were initially budgeting for an IT technician that we no longer are. And then the next page is human resources. And the changes here reflect 0 in personnel, and then utilizing professional services. And then the highlights, the other two highlights are for a switch from our one outsourced payroll company, Paychecks, to the intention to move to a new one, Paycom, and $15,000 budgeted per year for the software, and then $9,000 for the leasing of the biometric scanning devices.
Yeah, the time clocks.
The time clocks.
And that's a 2-year expense, and then we own them. Or we can go to new technologies as they arise.
And so on a net basis, that really didn't change much, if any. It's just with the leasing of the time clocks, we're just showing it in 2 separate line items.
Andrew, let me ask you a quick question. So I think I remember personnel-wise, Karen basically is going back to finance, but will be handling payroll and benefits, right?
Correct.
Okay. So there's $54,000 that's sitting out here for professional services. This is for our outsourced IT person, right? Or no, I'm sorry, outsourced HR person.
Correct.
Okay. So, and this is me being naive here for a minute. If payroll and benefits is going to be handled strictly through Karen, and we're abiding by the handbook and the charter, and we're not leaving a whole lot of room for all 70 of those employees to go rogue on us, what's really left for an HR person to do for $54,000 if we're not screwing around like we did the last 3 years?
Well, they have to undo that, number one.
Okay, well, I mean, that's a good start.
And there's all sorts of reporting that you have to do to the government, EEO-1 sheets and things like that need to be prepared, where you report how many males and females and the different races of your employees and things of that nature. And I mean, there's a lot an HR person.
Now, is this a full-time or is this going to be a part-time at $54,000?
This would be part-time, and the functions would include consulting services, consulting, compliance, policy review, development. That'll have both a part-time on-site presence here at the city, as well as full availability throughout the week, both with a phone number to call directly as well as email. So the person's fully available 5 days a week, and then on-site part of the week.
Okay.
If I may add, they'll have oversight of all the recruitment process, again, to make sure that everything is done fairly and the proper way, and dealing with the discipline issues if they come up. So we have somebody that has oversight of everything that we do.
Well, it's kind of making me rethink my number on my IT guy now. Yeah, because that's a pretty, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I know HR is a very skilled, a certain set of skill set that has to be there, but so is IT, so.
And the individual will also be working with Karen. It's not like that's 2 completely separate functions and we'll never talk.
Right, no, that's what I mean. That's why I kind of thought that number was a little high, but now that it's kind of being broken down a little bit more. Okay, great. Okay, thanks.
Yep. On the next page, finance, so this represents the reduction in personnel that you would, if you compared from the previous detailed budget for finance to this one. So this essentially adds Karen to this department, and then removes the budget for the finance director, and then moves that to professional services. $12,000 was in professional services, and then that increases by the monthly amount for me, which has been consistent with what you all have approved in FY20. Any questions on that?
Yeah, Andrew, do you feel like that $5,000 travel is reasonable in this budget?
We can certainly revisit that, especially looking at what the FY 18 and 19 costs were related to, and if it was to conferences that we can cut out, then we can certainly look harder at that number.
Yeah, we may need to do that across the board on anything with, certainly with travel, but the way this year's going, nobody's traveling anywhere anyhow. Of course, we don't know how long that's going to continue. Small item, but these days, I guess nothing is small in the budget.
And there could be some other expenses in there with the training. Maybe there's certifications and costs associated with that. So I can do a more detailed accounting of it.
Yeah, and if we can do any of it on, a lot of these things are online now on Zoom and whatnot, so we may be able to do it that way.
Okay. Next page, non-departmental, just to demonstrate that we're moving computer support and IT services, so those core costs borne by network people, we're moving that into its own department. And then Gulf Beach's library, a lot of going back and forth on that. So I think the last settlement was $84,100. I think we agreed earlier this evening that number is accurate. And then the capital improvement is the $34,000 that's for the Military Court of Honor. So that we're going to include that in the non-departmental capital improvement.
There's something I'd like to bring up on this while we're here. Recently, I've been going around to the city parks, to the South Beach parking lot, even around here, and to the 9/11 park. And our maintenance on these parks has been non-existent. The lawns are mowed, but that's about it. The trimming, the hedges, the flower beds, everything is really kind of in disarray when you go around the city, and it's not just one place in particular. And somehow we need to get some money in the budget to get these parks looking decent again. I see it in medians. I see it all over. I see it in hedges not being kept up. If we're going to put signs up saying we're the cleanest beaches city around, then we've got to put that up front. I think we need to get some funding from somewhere to start taking care of this city and getting it back in the shape it used to be. That's just my feeling on it. I know that money is hard to come by right now, but we need to try to get it from somewhere. I know there's some. We saw a letter on some grant money available from FDOT for state roads. The major part of these parks are on 9/11 is on a state road. South Beach parking lot is on a state road, so maybe we can get some grant money I think they're matching funds 50-50 from what I remember. But, anyhow, I think we need to kind of step it up in the city on making it look better. I think businesses will kind of join hands in cleaning their place up if they see the rest of the city stepping it up some. And other input?
No, I think you're right. I think we need to think up a plan and spiff up some of these places. I know even just doing my trash pirate walks up 150th, I mean, we have that whole, I guess it's like electrical station back behind some bushes. That place, it needs some attention.
Yeah, even the county
walk by
park.
there is crazy, and then there's nothing but cigarette butts.
Yeah, we need to reach out to the county too.
Yeah. Well, maybe we get some, I don't know.
As I told Bob, I have a chainsaw that's just itching to be used. But if y'all see where you can scrape up some money so that we can get that kind of stuff done and maintain it, there's flower beds right in front of this building that are they're just neglected.
Yeah, there's a palm tree growing out in front of our bottle tree planter, right in the very front. It's going to get too big to pull out if we're not careful.
So hopefully I'll have some agreement on that and getting something somewhere in the budget for it.
Well, maybe we take it project by project and we use the Horizon settlement that's been sitting there for how many years now?
Yeah, 15 years or more.
Let's make sure the construction is done before we start doing that, because that just messes everything up again. So it seems,
Yeah,
there's building around it, then.
Yeah, mulch is free, and it's right across the bridge. I mean, the problem with a lot of these areas is that it just floats away and hadn't been raked back or edged or anything. It's just, if y'all take
John Taft Park could use some mulch.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
They have it all marked off.
Exactly, yeah.
And then there's none there, right?
And it's, you see blotches of it from 10 years ago or whenever it was put in there, but that's about it. So, if you think we can round it up.
Did we ever order those flags that we wanted to put up?
They're working on the design with Doc John and trying to do something innovative, so it's in the process.
Okay.
I don't know
Well,
if
that
they're
was like
actually
6
ordered
months
as yet,
ago.
but yeah.
Okay, good. So that'll help I add some color and distinguish Madeira Beach from everybody else.
Well, yeah, and when you come over the bridge, that 9/11 Park, it should look good. That's the entrance to the city. So, and same way with the marina. So I don't know where you're going to put that or get it from, but that's something I'd like to see us do.
Yeah, we'll work with Andrew and Jamie, and we'll and obviously the parameters of that grant, but we'll definitely be sitting down this week and with our pencils.
Okay. Okay, Andrew, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, good commentary. So in the last 2 pages are just to show you the additions to capital that we're putting in the Stormwater Fund and Marina Fund, and that concludes the changes. So the plan going forward would be to me update and put together a tentative budget, operating budget based on what we discussed here tonight, as well as the legacy information that's already in here. The tentative operating budget will just make just as you've seen in the past. So it'll have all the departmental detail, it'll have the fund summaries, and leave it in that form. We're also working with, we have a budgeting and transparency software solution that the city's implemented that I've mentioned previously, and so that does have a budget book creation module, and we're currently working on getting everything uploaded into that. And then so for the final public hearing, the final adopted budget will be the output from the software. And so that'll include all the narratives, the goals and objectives by department, the city manager's message, narrative on financial policies, priorities and issues. So that full budget document will be will provide as soon as it's available, no later than for the final public hearing. So you'll have that to review for the final public hearing. But for the purposes of this first public hearing, we'll give you all the detail that you're accustomed to seeing by department, by fund, that has all the numbers, the numerical information, the important stuff, and then for the final public hearing, we'll have the full budget book ready for you. So that's the plan going forward. So it sounds like we're good on budget workshop for the rest of this, for the remainder of this, leading up to the next fiscal year, and then the remaining two budget items will be the first public hearing and the second public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Yep.
Next on the agenda is reorganization of city departments. City Manager Daniels.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, Vice Mayor. As we went through the budget process and with the assistance of our city clerk, she found a requirement that we have to pass an ordinance when we make a modification to a name of one of our departments or adding or subtracting departments. And the original document and the actual vote on this will be on the 9th. Will be the first reading and the public hearing on it. So you'll see the strikeout of what we originally had. We had a roads department, we had a sewer department, we had a utility department. So we basically, this has been ignored for years. So we want to make sure we follow everything appropriately that we have. So what you see here kind of matches up with the budget process that Andrew has, that you've seen the different departments, and so there's a correlation of it. And I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of this when you'll see it again on the 9th, and it'll be in front of you in an ordinance fashion. I think Mr. Trask is still reviewing a couple of the issues on it, but we'll make sure that it's all together for you, and you know, you're not surprised. And I know some of you that have been on the commission probably haven't seen this document because it's been quite some time since we actually followed what we're supposed to be doing.
Do we need to add the HR department?
Yes, that got left off.
Okay.
So thank you for catching that.
Yep.
You know, you can read these all the time and you miss it, so.
I know.
I apologize.
Mr. Daniels, I also wonder if, you know, we were talking about maintenance on all our public parks, and I don't think that would fall under recreation, though, the 9/11. Does it, Jay?
Actually, I think I made an error on the memo, and it should be reflecting in Public Works, I believe, correct? Or you want to address that?
Yeah, so with the true definition, since there isn't really essentially a full parks department with the city, over the past 5-10 years, it's kind of been parsed out differently. The maintenance aspect of most of these things that take place come out of the Public Works Department.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And then the maintenance on this, well, and maintenance is a tough word. Lawn maintenance and everything is managed on this property by Recreation, but if we have something that we can't handle, we take it to the Public Works Department. So Parks is kind of in no man's land. I think it's a tradition just to pass it back and forth every year and see who wants it. But, so we're just, I think for the sake of this time, it was just put in there, and we did discuss it yesterday. So it's kind of just ceremonial, not to
Okay, I was like, well, wait a minute, shouldn't 9/11 and
Yeah, and
fast parking lot, shouldn't that be Public Works?
right,
I
and for a,
Is really, but,
from a functioning standpoint, really any project that you see in some of these parks, Jamie and I will have some sort of conversation regardless of if it's, the feeling is it's underneath him or it's underneath me, we'll still discuss it because it's just something that we kind of work together on anyway, so. I don't know if that cleared it up or made it worse, but I'm trying to help.
yeah, it's just that number 7, recreation has got parks, activities, events. Okay. Okay.
So what department does Deb Laramie work for?
She works out of Parks, which is handled by Public Works.
Got it,
So that's the way it'll reflect.
got it.
We wrote this back on the 18th of August and has been
Sure.
changed, so,
Yeah.
but I'll make sure the other item too with the HR department is in there.
I know she does a lot with the medians and the, you know, a lot of the beautification that we see.
I was out there about 7:15, 7:30 this morning going through 9/11, so she's got the whole historical background too, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an emotional park, isn't it, Bob?
Very much so.
Yep. There's one other thing I would like to bring up. First of all, I guess we've got consensus on that breakdown
On the department,
for the
sure.
city manager for the departments.
Yep.
Shouldn't there also be one for the city clerk?
Actually, you had an answer for that. The city clerk? Right. Okay.
So that,
Okay, so apparently our charter differentiates between operational and constitutional officers or something. I guess we could read that thing. I don't have it with me.
I'll take a look at that and make
Yeah.
sure that we're all comfortable with that, but, it just jumped out to me that it is actual department, but this code section is, according to the city clerk, is just referring to departments under the city manager's direction, so.
Okay.
okay. One other thing before we adjourn, I wanted to mention to y'all. I got a call today. Our pennies for Pinellas 4 has been approved. And so, next Wednesday at our regular meeting, we'll need to vote on it for our acceptance of it, and I'm sure that's a no-brainer for everybody, but I wanted to make you aware of it. I got that call this afternoon,
Wow, okay.
so.
I do have a couple more things, and I promise they'll be very short. Census, please, I know I've mentioned it, and hopefully for folks that are listening, be counted, because it's really going to help us when we deal with these grants and the way the allocations go in the future. Right now, I think we're at 38%, and the lowest city out of the county is at 38%.
Oh, gosh.
So we are the lowest city in the county for getting responses. So, you know, we've been working on the campaign, getting all the word out there. Everybody I get to talk to, I keep asking them, have you been counted? What do you mean? And so it gives me an opportunity to explain it. And, you know, I'll be talking at the Rotary meeting next Tuesday and making sure, again, that everybody hears it. But, you know, we should be up in the 50% range. And, you know, so, and we've got less than a month to finish, because September 30th is the end of the tabulation. So again, I bring it up, not only you all have heard it, but just anybody else that might be listening, and, I know my department heads have also been out there and trying to drum up support. So 10 minutes, you can go off our website, and you can answer all the questions, and, people have said, well, they got a note on the door or whatever. It doesn't matter. If you went online and you did your due diligence, you're counted. So whether they talk to you at your door or not, it doesn't matter. A lot of times I think they do follow up to make sure that their records are complete, so. There was that issue. We do have the 9/11 memorial service that is being coordinated from the fire department, and that's going to be next Friday. We're doing two parts of it. We're doing a electronic piece where we've had obviously the commissioners that wanted to take part, and the vice mayor, of giving a short meaning of what 9/11 is to you all as individuals. And we had Jennifer Webb in. I think we have Kathleen Peters, I believe, has submitted a video, and we're going to package the videos together and show those during the day. And the plan is that the actual event is going to be small and short because of the social distancing and the other issues that we have right now. But again, we're going to package that as part of it and show that throughout the day, and probably have a link off our website for it and the YouTube channel and everything. So we kind of had the idea as the first, fire department. Our fire department had the idea, and we kind of worked collaboratively on it. I'll spit it out. There are some other cities now that have jumped on the bandwagon, but, I'm sure our production will look great. And, and it's really a solemn day, and it's a remembrance. So I appreciate everybody's response to our invitations for the commission in your mailboxes, so you can pick those up on the way out, and it'll be very short, I promise you, but it might be very hot too. I think I covered everything I had to cover. Thank you.
With that, this meeting is adjourned at 7:37 p.m.